Almost every advanced chip on earth is made by one company on one island, and you have never bought a single thing from them. The phone in your hand, the laptop you're watching this on, the car outside, the AI everyone won't shut up about, the brain inside, all of it came out of just one building in Taiwan. And here's the part that should keep you up at night. That one company cannot make those chips without machines built by exactly one other company in a small town in Netherlands. A monopoly feeding another monopoly. And nobody on earth, not America, not China, not all the money ever printed, has managed to copy either of them. The entire modern economy is quietly balanced on a single point of failure most people have never heard the name of. Watch how thin the thread really is. Let me introduce the company. TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductors Manufacturing Company. Say the name to 10 people on the street and maybe one knows about it. And yet roughly 90% of the world's most advanced chips are made by them. The leading edge stuff. The chips at the very front of what's physically possible. Sit with that number because people skip past it too fast. 90% from one single company. Not 90% of some chip. It is 90% of the best one. The processors in your iPhone is made by TSMC. The chips Nvidia sells that triggered the entire AI gold rush is made by TSMC. AMD, Qualcomm, the silicon in your laptops, data centers, modern cars. Overwhelmingly, just one company. So here's the strange thing. Apple is worth trillions. Nvidia is worth trillions. These are the most powerful technology companies in history. And not one of them actually makes their own most important chips. They line up politely outside the same factory doors in Taiwan. The most valuable companies in the world are in the end customers. What kind of business gets to be the supplier that everybody needs and nobody can replace? To understand how does a factory become more powerful than its famous customers? To understand it, go back to 1987. A man named Morris Chang founds TSMC in Taiwan, and he makes a bet that sounds insane at that time. Back then, if you made chips, you did everything yourself. You designed the chips and you built the factory and you manufactured it. Intel has done it. The whole industry did it. Chang's bet was the opposite. We will only manufacture. We will never design a chip of our own. We will never sell a product with our name on it. We will just build flawlessly whenever you design. This is the masterstroke and it's the whole video. So slow down here. A modern chip design is a company's crown jewel. Billions in R&D. The secret of their entire product. Apple's design is Apple. Now imagine handing that blueprint to a factory that also sells its own phone. You would never do it. You would be handing over your deepest secrets to your competitor. TSMC sells nothing of its own. It has no phone, no graphic cards, no product to compete with you. So it became the one place on earth that every rival designer could trust at the same point. Apple, Nvidia, AMD and Qualcomm, they are fierce enemies, all handing their crown jewels to the same neutral factory because the factory will never use them against you. That split has a name. The designers, Apple, Nvidia, they're called Fabless. They design, they do not build. And the builders, the foundry, is TSMC. The world's smartest chip companies became designers because someone else agreed to be the perfect neutral hand. One sentence to carry for the rest of the video. Everyone designs the future. Only one company can actually build it. If it's that good of a business, why hasn't someone just copied it? Build a factory, hire engineers, take the profits. This is where it gets genuinely strange. First, the money. A single cutting-edge chip factory, fab, costs on the order of $20 to $30 billion, not millions, tens of billions of dollars for one building. So that alone scares off almost everyone, which is putting it mildly. But money isn't even the real moat. The part you cannot buy is much harder. Those chips are built at scale of single atom. The cutting edge is down to 2 nanometers, so small that thousands of these circuits would line up across a single human hair. And at that scale, the whole game comes down to one word called yield. How many chips on a wafer come out actually working instead of expensive scrap? Getting yield high is not written in any manual. It's decades of trial and error, thousands of tiny tricks locked inside the heads of engineers who have failed a million times to learn them. You cannot buy that. You cannot hire it overnight. You can only earn it 1 year at a time. You cannot download 30 years of failure, and that's exactly why nobody has caught TSML. Intel, the company that invented the industry, has spent years fighting just to get back to the leading edge. Samsung, a giant with bottomless pockets, trails on yields too. These aren't small players. They have the billions, the engineers and the will, and they still cannot catch up to the front. Because the one thing TSMC has that money cannot buy is time. 3 decades of being slightly ahead every single year compounding. The strongest moat in business isn't a patent or a secret formula. It's time. Decades of accumulated know-how stacked so high nobody can climb it with cash. That's how a company, TSMC, quietly ended up making 90% of the world's most advanced chip. Now here's the twist that turns this from a great business story into a slightly terrifying one. Because TSMC, the company everyone depends on, itself depends on someone. And it's worse than you think. To carve circuit patterns at the scale of a single atom, TSMC, factory that makes almost every advanced chip, needs a specific kind of a machine called EUV lithography. It's extreme ultraviolet. Think of it as a camera so precise it draws circuit lines thinner than a virus using light that barely exists in nature. Without EUV, the leading edge stops. Full stop. And those EUV machines, the ones that print every advanced chips, are made by exactly one company on earth. Not the best of a few, the only one. Picture that for a second. One company on the whole planet, that's ASML, in a small town in Netherlands. If TSMC, the factory behind every advanced chip, is a monopoly the world depends on, ASML is the monopoly TSMC depends on. A single company feeding the single company that feeds the entire planet. And what kind of machine are we even talking about? An EUV lithography machine, the device that prints the world's most advanced chips. A standard one costs on the order of 150 million euros, and the newest high-end generation runs over 350 million euros apiece. It's considered one of the most complex objects humans have ever built. Hundreds of thousands of parts, optics so perfect they're polished by Zeiss in Germany to a smoothness that scaled up would be flatter than a mountain. To deliver one, ASML ships it in dozens of freight containers. You don't buy it off a shelf, you have to wait for years. So look at the actual shape of the modern world. Apple designs a chip and TSMC can only build it because ASML is the only one who can make the machine. Pull any one of those 3 out of the chain and the whole thing stops. The most advanced supply chain humanity has ever built is, in the end, a single thread. And almost nobody has looked at it. How thin is that thread really? Now the uncomfortable part. Because that single thread runs straight through the most dangerous fault line in geopolitics. TSMC's most advanced fabs sit on Taiwan, and Taiwan sits on the center of tension between the United States and China. Some people call Taiwan's chip dominance its silicon shield. The idea that the island is so essential to the world economy that no one would dare let anything happen to it. But here's the terrifying flip side. Almost every advanced chip on earth is made on one single island, Taiwan. So if anything ever disrupted it, conflict, a blockade, the supply of the world's chip would choke off almost overnight. Bloomberg Economics estimated a war over Taiwan would cost the world economy around $10 trillion in its first year. Not billions, trillions of dollars. Your phone, your laptop, your car, the entire AI boom, all paused at once. That's one island, one point of failure. And here's why you cannot just fix the world's dependency on Taiwan for advanced chip by spending money. Governments figured this out and panicked. The United States passed the CHIPS Act around $52 billion to build chip factories on home soil. Europe, Japan, others are doing the same. India has its own semiconductor push. Its first chip packaging plants are already shipping, and a Tata fab is rising in Gujarat, aiming for its first homemade silicon by late 2026. But that's older, trailing edge technology, still a generation or two behind the leading edge. Everyone all at once racing to not depend on that one island. And every country trying to build its own chip industry is still years behind. Why? Because this is the lesson under the whole story. You cannot airlift a fab. A leading edge chip factory needs vast clean water, enormous power, and most of it, thousands of engineers carrying decade-deep, hard-won knowledge in their head. You can write a $52 billion check tomorrow. You cannot write a check for 30 years of accumulated experience. Money buys a building. It does not buy the time. That's the whole fragility in one line. The world it spent decades quietly concentrating its most critical capabilities into the fewest possible hands because it was cheaper and better that way. And only now, too late, everyone is looking up and realizing how thin the thread really is. But here's where it stops being about chips at all. You might think this is a geopolitics story. Chips, Taiwan, not your problem. But the thing is, it is your problem. And not just because your phone would die. Because the shape of this story is the shape of your own life. And you have never audited it. Everything that runs the modern world has the same quiet logic. It's cheaper and better to depend on the best option than to keep a clumsy backup. So the world did that for chips, for the machines that make the chips, until the entire structure rested on a thread nobody was watching. Now look at your own life with the same eyes. Your income probably rests on one skill, or one employer, or one big client. Your businesses run on one supplier, or one platform's algorithm, or one app you would be paralyzed without. Your savings are in one bank login. There is, in almost every life, a single TSMC, a single point that everything quietly leans on, that you have simply never thought to look at because it always just works. Everyone designs a life that looks stable. Almost no one checks what it's built on. Do one thing this week that almost no one does for the global economy until it's too late. Find your single point of failure before it fails. Open a document. Write down the things your life genuinely depends on. The income, the client, the skills, the supplier, the one app or account. Then for each one, ask the brutal question. If this vanished tomorrow, what happens to me? The ones where the answer is everything stop, those are your TSMC. That's where you quietly build the second option while everything is still working, while you still have the time. Because that's the real lesson of one company on one island. Everything that feels stable is sitting on something you have never looked at. This channel pulls apart the everyday things you have stopped questioning and shows you the hidden gears that decide how your money, your work, and your world actually runs. If you want to start seeing those gears, subscribe. See you in the next one.